one, a quick intro, and two, how has each of your brands entered the game of soccer? I think Ally, Wells, PayPal have each come into the sport in a very different way and a different point of entry. So would love to hear from you. Let's start with you, Jill.
Hi, thanks, Courtney. So great to be here with everyone. I'm Jill Kress. I look after consumer marketing at PayPal, which also includes Venmo. And so, yeah, we have just recently solidified a 10-year naming rights sponsorships with the San Jose Earthquakes. And so it is our first partnership in the MLS and soccer space. And we're really excited about it. For PayPal, this was really an opportunity for us to invest in our local community. We are very much a part of the San Jose fabric and have been since our inception. We are a community of stakeholders at PayPal across our consumers and the merchants that we serve. And we're really excited about the opportunity that this sponsorship has to embrace the local fans, the consumers, but also to find ways to bring the community into this sponsorship, to look at opportunities through pass-through rights, to support our small businesses, and just use this as a platform to bring our stakeholders together and to support the incredible community that is San Jose, California.
Love it. Congratulations to you and the team. Andrea, let's go next to you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a lifelong soccer player. I played college soccer at Michigan State for 4 years. I've been playing my whole life. So my boss accuses me of sponsoring what I love, but that's the privilege of being able to sit in this chair. So it has been an awesome journey for us. I mean, it really for us began with ICC, and we sponsored the soccer friendlies in this country for a number of years and continue to do that, both the men's as well as the women's. And then we had an opportunity to sponsor the new team coming into Charlotte, the Charlotte MLS team, which for us was awesome. We have a huge footprint, obviously, in Charlotte, one of our corporate headquarters, Detroit and Charlotte. So to be able to join the Tepper organization and to take on that sponsorship is just a huge pride point for us as a kit sponsor, which we're really excited about, and really trying to approach it by being an ally to the community and to the fans. And then the opportunity came up to sponsor the National Women's Soccer League. I've known Lisa Baird, who's the commissioner, for a long time, and we've been talking about this over the course of a couple of different months, and we just jumped in with both feet. We were really excited about it. And I will tell you the thing I'm the most excited about, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, Courtney, is the Player Impact Fund that we established, that's going to give the women accessibility to funds to really help them, support them in their journey and their training, and really the craft of being the best in the world at soccer.
That's amazing. And I can't wait to learn more about that. Excited for Charlotte to get an MLS team, and know Ally's been a part of it since the inception, if not before the inception. So excited to hear more about that as well. Sara, we have a co-owner, an investor here, so would love to hear more about Wells. I know they've been a long time partner of the MLS. Yeah, let's go to you.
Yeah, I have to say, Jill and Andrea, I've been keeping an eye on PayPal and Ally Bank for a couple of years now, and I knew these moments were coming. But congratulations on breaking into soccer, really more empathetically. So Wells Fargo, we tiptoed in soccer back in 2011, also through San Jose. That's where our regional headquarters, our national headquarters now are located in San Francisco. So we want to be where our community, where our customers are, and that was a big. That was really important to connect with the Quakes. So that was a testing ground. Despite Wells Fargo having a pretty large, well-known brand, I'm from Chicago. There are no Wells Fargos really in Chicago, but I knew the brand. However, it didn't become a national brand until after 2008, 2009. And so when we sponsored Major League Soccer, part of it was to address two things. One, it was to make it known that we are no longer a regional bank, we're a national bank. And so the Major League Soccer was our first national league deal, in addition to La Selección Mexicana, which is the Mexican national team. And the reason why we sponsored both MLS and Mexico was because a couple things. Demographics continue to shift. 2010 census came out, Hispanic growth booming, continues to boom, and both MLS and the Mexican national team addressed a huge growth market. MLS, of course, also addresses big millennial growth. So those were really the two large factors for why we entered soccer. Since then, we've been a league sponsor of both Mexico MLS, club teams in MLS, club teams in USL. To my utter heartbreak, we did not sponsor NWSL. I actually did chat with them back in 2018, but there were a lot of reasons why we couldn't move forward, including a good half the league at the moment, or at the time, sorry, we're not located in Wells Fargo markets, which is, like I said, is really important for us to be where our customers are. So, since then we've activated around World Cups, Copa America, Gold Cup. So anything that's really focused on the US and soccer, we've tried to connect with. And then today, I could, LA beat us to NWSL. And so personally, I said, you know what, I really, really want to invest in women's soccer however I can. And I'm really, really excited. This is the first time I'm talking publicly about the Courage. So it was announced this morning, and I'm kind of beyond myself here.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. So exciting. Saw the announcement. It's a great time for the sport for a lot of reasons, and exciting you're part of it in such a big way in North Carolina. So just to get more into what each of you had brought up, Andrea, congratulations again, official partner of the NWSL. I know you just mentioned it, one of the elements being the Player Impact Fund. Here at the Players Tribune, we've been working with a lot of the women in the league to really fight for pay equality and give them the platform to really speak out, and seeing a brand come to the table and, commit to putting some of those sponsorship dollars to the players directly is a really big deal. Can you share more about just that partnership, how it came to life, and specifically the Player Impact Fund?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of the sponsorship, as I mentioned, we've been growing our footprint in soccer over the years. And I neglected to mention that we also sponsor the Detroit Football Club, which is one of the feeder teams into the MLS here in Detroit, both men's and women's. And, what was really nagging at both myself and Bridget Sponsky, who's my head of sports and brand marketing, was that we really wanted a more expansive growth in women's sports. And we love soccer on so many levels. Sara touched on some of the diversity. The demographic is wonderful, the upward trajectory of it in the country. And so being able to get into National Women's Soccer League was so exciting for us. They're great partners. And, I think Lisa Baird and her team have done an unbelievable job in terms of all the big brands that they're bringing in, which is awesome. For us, I think something that was really important to Bridget and I was this idea that women need parity. They need big brands to come in and do deeds, not just talk about words. It's really easy just to come in and slap your logo on some stuff. It's harder to take a portion of your budget and allocate it to the players to say, whatever you need, this fund is available to you. And so, I think the issue was illuminated during the Final Four, right? The NCAA Final Four, with the viral video around the disparity between the men's locker room and the women's locker room. That's what this Player Impact Fund was made for. You need weight equipment, request. You need help with daycare because you're training, request. It's meant to be able to give the women this leg up so that they can achieve kind of their best selves in terms of the sport. And it boggles my mind because if you think about how strong the women's teams are, the incredible success of the women's Olympic team, the incredible success that we've had in World Cups, just dominant. And there should really not be any disparity on any level, whether it's pay or availability of funds. And so we're looking to really try and help correct that.
Absolutely. It's one of the missions on our side too, is we want to highlight the best athletes in the world, period. And especially in soccer, the women are just so dominant. So excited to see that come to life and really allow them to do what they do best in their career. I think one common thread here is how all of the activations and commitments in soccer really are tied to the community or the player or the fan bases on a local level. Sara, I know that Wells Fargo, like we mentioned, longtime partner of the MLS, one of the core pillars is the community MVP program. Can you just share a little bit more about what that program is for those that might not be familiar and how it's evolved, especially, the past year and everything that's transpired?
Yeah. And I'll talk also a little bit about the Mexican national team. And again, even though we sponsor Mexico, we're focused on the US Hispanic market. But with Community MVP, it's a program that we've executed since the beginning of the league sponsorship, which essentially is recognizing soccer, a soccer fan in each of the MLS markets who've contributed to their communities through, using soccer as a vehicle to do that. And so nominations are open across the country. Each team selects a person to represent that team, and then there is a voting aspect to it. And there's a grand prize at the end that's increased throughout the years, but it has been anywhere between $10,000 and $25,000. And it becomes a voting. It started off as a voting kind of mechanism. So a lot of fan engagement. What's really neat, is to see fans within those markets, within those teams, and players like cheer on their local MVP and hopefully win that CMVP prize. And we've turned, so fan engagement, community involvement, we've turned it into the content we've captured from those moments. We've actually been able to cut down to 30-second spots. So instead of putting a brand ad, for example, we will highlight the nonprofits that have been nominated. And so that's what we've done throughout the years. Pandemic certainly hit. The program shifted a little bit in that it didn't diverge too much, other than we didn't have people, in an all-star game acknowledging them on the field. That was, a sad loss. But we made it such that every person who became a nominee won some type of financial aspect that they could take back to their local communities. What we did do that was really different was last year, everybody kind of stood still. Everybody, was really just suffering. And a lot of the big issue that came was food insecurity. Wells Fargo turned a lot of idle branches into mobile food banks. So people can come through, drive through, pick up some food. We tied that national initiative with soccer so that during the MLS is Back tournament that started back in June, for every assist that was made, we would contribute financially to a local food bank in the MLS market. And so over the course of a couple of months, we were able to raise $135,000, which is wonderful. Obviously, a lot of pressure on some of the players to get those assists right for the goals, and that was a big piece.
Of course.
And then as far as the community, the other way I look at community, especially in the Hispanic market, is identity, right? And I didn't want to bring that up because I think sometimes that is missed. And so some of the content we created a couple years ago, even before the pandemic, politically, it was a very tense moment after the 2016 elections. And so we, in light of the World Cup, in light of these political situation, we created some really amazing national TV campaigns that really celebrated, it was around the Mexican national team because the US didn't qualify, but the men's team at least. And so really created some key moments to acknowledge the Hispanic fan base that I think really spoke to what we were all dealing with at the time. And I will say, it didn't go without any controversy, but I'm really, really proud to say, like, the fans that we wanted this to resonate with, like, really stepped up. I mean, it's rare when somebody's like, "Oh, that's my bank. I love you, bank." You don't always hear that, right? Compared to maybe a CPG product. And, exciting to kind of put my hat on, for that first week of the World Cup, it was the most brands talked about: Nike, Adidas, and Wells Fargo. So.
Awesome. Congratulations to, I know everyone had a pivot this past year, but really making a meaningful impact in the community. Certainly special. So, speaking of those local ties, Jill, with PayPal, finalizing the stadium naming rights deal right in the backyard of San Jose with the earthquakes. Like, what does this mean for PayPal? I know you have an extensive background in sports sponsorships, and this is really one of a big way of entry. Can you share a little bit more about, like, what that means? How are you activating in stadium, and potentially going forward, just the future of how you guys plan to activate in sport?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're so excited about this being our entry point into a holistic approach to sponsorship and the experiential angle. So again, we thought about this across the stakeholders that we have. And at the foundational level, we wanted to use this as an opportunity to look at this moment in time that we're in as fans start to come back into stadiums and use PayPal Park, which is the name of the stadium. So to use PayPal Park to reimagine the future of live event experiences, and doing that by leveraging PayPal's payment technology. And so you'll see a real effort to drive seamless commerce so that fans can really participate in the game and not have commerce as a barrier to how they get their food, how they get their merch, et cetera. So lots of technology integration that will be playing out. And we're excited about that and introducing consumers to that experience. The other thing is really investing in the local community. And so one of the things I'm really excited about is we have a set of designated seats in the stadium that will be reserved for a community, a local community group, a not-for-profit, a children's group that we want to expose to the game of soccer. And we'll be working closely with the mayor's office to leverage that space in a way to involve the broader San Jose community. And then, the other thing that we're really excited about is this opportunity to take our rights and pass those through to small businesses. So, kind of taking a page from Intuit's approach at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, where they, bought the spot and then gave it to one of their customers. And so we're really excited to highlight, that PayPal is a two-sided network, and we connect buyers and sellers, and really very much the advocate and champion of small businesses. So how can we promote a local small business and actually give them access to the many assets that we have, including signage and some of our on-air rights and things like that, to promote those local businesses as part of the activation, and then, use it as a venue to celebrate our employees, give them, access to the experience, and clients, right? Sort of through some of the traditional access that we have. So we really think it's an opportunity for us to make it a place, a gathering place to delight fans, to support our customers, and to just test our way into, that intersection of technology, experience, how live events can be made more seamless so that you can focus on the event itself, and really start to engage with those stakeholders.
Yeah, well, congrats to you and the team, and allowing, I think, making it accessible, right, to see a live sporting event. That's not something that everyone has an opportunity to do always, and making sure that the community is able to enjoy the stadium. Just super exciting times, and look forward to being able to get to a live event here in New York, at least some point in the near future. So this is a question more for all of you, but at Minute Media, the Players Tribune, we're really doubling down in our coverage of the sport. We've officially become an MLS partner, which is super exciting for us as a brand. We're entering a really exciting stretch in North American soccer, right? We have the World Cup next year, but 2026, the World Cup is coming back to the US, which I'm super excited for. It always gets a massive influx of attention, the MLS being born from the World Cup in '94. What do each of you hope happens to the game leading up into the World Cup? Whether that be with the NWSL, MLS, obviously the growth of even coverage of the global game here in the States. You mentioned, Sara, the Mexico national team, but just would love to kind of hear like the 5-year outlook for the sport. Jill, we can start with you.
Well, as you said, it's such an exciting sport. And yeah, through my tenure as a marketer, I spent the good majority of my life and career at Mastercard, and we were very invested in this sport. And what's so exciting is it is such a moment for the fans, right? And PayPal is a brand that is grounded in democratization of financial inclusion. And so as we look at those moments in those events, really creating an opportunity for, fans to be a part of that experience as it relates to, the events, those events taking place likely in our stadium, and just, the leaning into that, right? And sort of understanding that passion point really figuring out how we can provide as much access to the people who love the game, and really be a part of what I think will be an incredible celebration. And it's just, as you've all been saying, it is such a moment for soccer, for football, and for a brand like ours who cares so much about understanding our consumers and creating access to them, thinking about how we can create access through experiences and exposure to a game like soccer is really exciting for us.
Amazing. Thank you. Sara, I'll kick it off to you.
Let's see. Obviously as much, coverage of soccer on broadcast would be fantastic, especially NWSL. Obviously, I'm now personally invested in bias, so I want to see more of that, more ratings. I'd love to see more brands activating around it. Myself included in my work, right? We are used to seeing the big kind of 4 leagues out there on display aisles at the supermarket or at the grocery store or online. So as much activation, I think, as possible. Some more storytelling, on the Players Tribune or Minute Media channels, right? I think that both MLS and NWSL players have, everybody, doesn't matter who are you, you've got a story to tell, but I think there's a lot of extraordinary stories out there that aren't getting told. Same thing. I think I also want to see more brands kind of tapping into diverse segments in soccer. We're seeing a lot of, the Hispanic market's has always really been there for soccer, but we're seeing the African American segment like really buying in. You go to Atlanta and you're seeing like Atlanta United has probably the most diverse fan base I've ever seen. It's Indian, it's it's Asian, definitely Latino, Black. LA, same thing. So more of that would be really exciting. There's a lot. Like you said, there's 2020, there's Qatar, there's Qatar, there's Australia, New Zealand. Like it's a lot. I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm gonna stop.
all exciting things. Andrea, would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure that I have a lot that I can add onto what both Jill and Sara said well. I think the thing for me is that that sports become successful in this country as brands support them and give them visibility. And I think that, NWSL is a great example. It's at a tipping point, right? You famously know a couple years ago, they had a hard time attracting any brands, and now they're pulling in huge brands. They signed Nationwide or announced Nationwide and us within 24 hours of each other. And so that's incredible. And, for me, it's awesome to see brands like PayPal and Wells Fargo and ourselves and Nationwide and all these great brands be a part of the coming up of the game. And for me, as an ex-soccer player, and to see how rabid the younger generation is, it's probably one of the most popular sports with youth in this country. And so I think it's the coming of age of soccer. And I'd love to see more and more brands really put substantive commitments behind igniting this sport in our country and creating the same kind of fandom around it that exists internationally. And as that happens, it will attract media followership. It will attract, more and more sponsorship dollars, and it will be better and better for the players. And those are the kinds of things that I think will happen. It's a beautiful sport. I love it. I've always loved it. I've loved it since I was a little kid. And I'm just excited that we have an opportunity to share it with the world.
Absolutely. And, we're watching too. We've been highlighting stories. Like we did an amazing piece with Sydney Thoreau called Bad as a Mother, right when she became a mother and having to compete as a mom and the balance. And now even with some of the women playing internationally, we're having more international players come and compete here. Messi just came out and said his dream was to compete in the US, right? So excited certainly about what's to come, and more excited that there's brands stepping up to the table to help just elevate the game, but especially the women's game, which leads me to my next question. So we have here an all-female panel on soccer marketing. We've talked a lot about why more big brands need to step up and support women's sports. We spoke about what happened at the NCAA tournament, and or lack thereof, I should say. I just was reading this morning about something taking place, I believe, with an NCAA regional golf tournament, them canceling it because of uncertain golf course conditions. But just would love to hear, like, can each of you share your thoughts on like stepping up, more support the women's game, and not even just the soccer, but really just across the board? Maybe Jill, we start with you again.
Yeah, sure. I think for us as brands, it's really understanding our audience, right? And women are a huge part of our audience. And I think how we show up in supporting, sponsorships that include women, opportunity for women, is something that's really important, I think, as we look at diversifying our portfolio of investments and how we think about how we show up in the communities that we serve, not only here in the US, but also, around the world, given that we're a global brand. So it's as a brand that's very much grounded in a mission of inclusivity, understanding, those consumers of all kinds, but women definitely as a part of that is a big part of our thinking.
Absolutely. Sara, we'll go to you.
Yeah. Everything Jill said. The things that I keep thinking about are, as we look at consumer data, we know the younger generation want to align themselves with brands that support things that they believe in. I think the women's sports leagues across, whatever sport you're in, and this is growing beyond just the U.S. Represent really social change, right? Whether we're talking about racial justice, or whether we're talking about paid family leave, what have you. I think the women are certainly leading. We saw that with the WNBA. They are leading those conversations. We know, Gen Z, millennial. This is they want to put their money in with organizations that they can support. Again, I'm really excited to be a Courage co-owner for that reason. Half the ownership team at this moment is, immigrant or first generation here in the U.S. They were some of the first teams to be, aligned with Black Lives Matter. And anyhow, I can go on about the team forever if anybody wants to have a different conversation. But yeah, just really, really excited about where we're at.
Congrats on a personal level to you again. Super exciting. That's awesome. Andrea, some final thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that we know that for women athletes, it's just different. It is, they for too long have not been treated equitably, either in terms of pay or access or support. It's hard, just like it is being a woman that works. They're oftentimes their moms, they have very full schedules, they're juggling a lot, and they're trying to be a world-class athlete. And I just feel that brands have a responsibility to step up. And in some cases, and this may sound odd, but overpay. Because in order to really help lift women's sports, brands are going to have to come in with substantive investment levels. And sometimes that's not going to value out. It may not be a 1-for-1. And I think we have to accept that as brands, and we have to do the right thing, right? And so for me, that's what I would love to see more big brands doing, because if we don't get out of our own way with trying to pencil everything out and have everything out to these, perfect valuations, the women's sports will never advance, and a sport like soccer will never advance to the extent that it can. So you kind of have to take a bet, jump in, and start running down the field.
Totally. This is big. It's bigger than just sponsorship. It's about creating change and standing up for something that really matters. So one question we have, and our final question for this panel, is each of you have been in marketing and sponsorships, and have pretty amazing career paths. Being in financial services for one, from a brand perspective, but also in sports and marketing. One piece of advice you have for not just women, but people looking to break into our industry, which we all know can be quite competitive. Just one piece of advice for those, which I know we have a lot of current students on the panel here listening in. Jill, would you like to start?
I love that question. And I think, it's been such a pleasure to hear Sara and Andrea and catching up with you as well yesterday, talk about this. I think the thing that has served me really well has been to bring not only my head, but my heart, and I think, Andrea's last example, the decisions that Wells made that Sara represented, it's because executives showed up with intention around their own personal passion for this kind of support for, a sport, for a segment of fans, for a segment of players, women, in this case, as we're talking about, or, different demographics. So I think it's like, it's that getting beyond the math and the models, but leading with a little bit of heart as it meets the head as well.
I love that. Love that. Andrea, some career advice from you?
Yeah, I mean, career advice from me is, just know that there's a lot that you can do in this space, and you can intersect your personal passion. And it's really important to find, something that intersects what you believe in from a value set standpoint, to find the kind of company and to find the kind of career that intersects what you believe in personally, because you'll be a better self if you find something that you have that extreme passion about. For me, that's what I've loved about working at Ally. That's what I've loved about this job. And, kind of all joking aside with my boss, like he said, I know you love soccer, and I think it's awesome that you get an opportunity to help bring the sport to life in this country. And those are the important things. Those are the things that matter. So find the things that matter to you.
Love that. Thank you. Sara, final thoughts. Close us out.
Ditto Jill, ditto Andrea. The last piece, really fast, I'd say find ways. I'm not talking about networking necessarily